Hey guys, welcome back to Amir. Most founders sit down to post on social media and go completely blank. But I have good news. You don't actually have a content problem. You have a clarity problem. At my 9 to 5, creating content is easy because someone has handed me the mission. I've learned the market well enough to know exactly what pain points we need to address and how our product solves them. So the content writes itself. But it's that infrastructure, mission, audience, pain points, outcomes, etc., is the part that founders skip. They start posting because it feels like that's what you're supposed to do, and you are, but content without the foundation is not a strategy. So it's kind of no wonder you feel confused. But that's why I brought Emma Tessler onto the podcast. Emma is the founder of 95 Media and has been in social since 2015. She's worked with hundreds of brands, and she does not pull punches. Every single piece of advice she gives in this episode is downstream of one question. Does this actually serve your specific audience, or are you posting because it feels like progress? In our conversation, we cover what to do in the first 30 days of posting, what metrics you should be focusing on, and spoiler alert, it's not comments or follower count, what successful founder content looks like, and why paid options should always come last. There's also a moment where we talk about an important nuance that I need every early stage founder to hear. Nobody cares about your values. Values are internal. Your mission is what converts because it names the problem you solve and the person you are solving it for. And make sure to stay all the way through to the end of the episode because Emma's sharing her marketing growth blueprint built specifically for early stage founders who want an expert-led strategy that they can execute on their own. So if you're ready to stop throwing spaghetti at the wall, this episode is for you. Hey, how are you?
I am doing great.
Good.
I'm excited for today.
That color is so pretty on you.
Oh, thank you. It's nice and bright. Are you in like a podcast recording studio today or one of those like phone booths?
No, yeah. So I'm actually at my office for my 9 to 5, and we have the little phone booths in here, so I always use these.
Love multitasking.
Yeah. No, literally, that's like the story of my life. I'm always context switching between the two, or like once I'm done here, I'm like running home, getting a quick workout in, like eating dinner, and then jumping back on the computer. It's just the life, you know?
I've been there. I get it. It's worth it. It's worth it to do both.
It really is. And there always comes a time when you start to treat it differently, when it's like not just a side hustle anymore. And the irony is, I'm a marketer in my daily life, but for some reason, the side hustle feels sacred and you don't want to like apply the same business logic in the same way that you would for a company that you're getting paid to work for. But at the end of the day, like business is business, and people grow their businesses the same exact way.
Yeah. When your business is still your side hustle, there's, like you said, there's something very sacred about it. And I know like I didn't tell anyone, like it was like my thing. And like the people online, obviously, like I was so loud online, but like in person, I was like, oh yeah, I did nothing this weekend. I definitely didn't work 60 hours on my business this weekend. Just lazy me.
No, I feel guilty sometimes. Like I literally spent all of Saturday or all of Sunday like at my computer working, which is great. I mean, thankfully my fiance is the same way. Like he also has a side hustle, so it's like nobody's guilt tripping each other. I'm also sometimes I just look at him and I'm like, should we go outside?
Yeah, should we like live a life? I don't know.
Literally, I don't know. This is looking to me right now.
I get it.
Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Before we dive into the like official questions, I would love for you to just give the people like a brief introduction on who you are, how you got to where you are today, all of that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Emma Tessler. I'm the founder of 95 Media, and we are a social media marketing agency we really work with brands who are looking to take this business that they've built and scale it using social media visibility. We've been doing this for a really long time. I actually started 95 Media in 2015 as a side hustle, and it really has just grown so much as the industry has evolved. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that can feel so intimidating to a lot of business owners is that the industry is constantly changing, but it is actually my favorite part because it keeps things new and fresh and different every single day. And it is the impact that we're able to make in this space that really drives me. I think that my first career was actually interior design. And one thing about interior design, it sounds so fun on the surface. And then once you really get into it, it's actually a quite antiquated industry. But when I found social media marketing, I was like, okay, this is really cool. It's really different. And there's just so much that you can do on the creative, but also analytical side that keeps us coming back. So today we're a team of 10. We're women owned and operated, and we've worked with hundreds of brands to help them scale and grow their own business using the power of social. And it's really amazing.
I love that. I'm also like really intrigued to get your take on the market because I think you like are so in it, and everything you said I totally agree with, especially how daunting it can be for early stage founders to really like dive into this world. But I think, as you know, like social media marketing is kind of a non-negotiable at this point. So I would love for you to just give a state of the market right now. Like drop us into the world. What does it look like? How are people able to find growth in a space that's so like commoditized and flooded with other people?
I think honestly, social has always been saturated. What's funny is like in 2016, people were saying that social media was saturated and that's why they shouldn't get on social. And then here we are 10 years later, and those people are like, dang, I really wish I had started that TikTok in 2020 or started that Instagram in 2016 because it was so much easier then. So I think the truth is that it's always saturated and it's always challenging in its own unique way. And there's never a better time to start than right now. So there's always things changing on social. One thing about this year that we've seen a big shift in is how there's a really big focus on retention, not just getting attention. So previously, everyone was trying to create trending videos and do kind of wacky stuff to get attention, thinking, oh, well, if I just get attention and I get new eyes on the business, I'll be able to do something with that. But the truth is, if you can't retain the attention you get, you really can't convert the consumer into a paying client. So the way we look at it is like the metrics that are really mattering right now are your watch time, the drop off time, your saves, your shares. How are people engaging with that in more of a behind the scenes manner than front of house? And what I mean by that is a lot of people are focused on the engagement. They want more comments, they want more DMs, but actually it's the stuff that happens behind the scenes from like the lurkers that often matters more in the retention aspect. And you could have someone who's been consuming your content silently for years, pay you $50,000. And then you could have someone who just found you yesterday, not want to pay $50,000 because they haven't consumed enough. It's a really underrated way of looking at your material.
Do you think that's because like when you think about the way that social posts are constructed is it's very much like, I use the analogy of like small talk, like you're at a dinner party, and to me like social posts are typically like the small talk, and then because you're building a narrative, like you're not telling your entire story in one social post. So the people who have been consuming your content for longer periods of time or are saving and coming back to it time and time again, like they, in theory, if they've been following you for a while too, are seeing the narrative unfold, and so therefore are more willing to convert in that way. Like it's kind of a long game.
It's definitely a long game. It's also important to remember, though, that people aren't consuming chronologically. So a post that you posted to like fit into the narrative that you're building 6 months ago could show up on someone's feed today. And with that in mind, I wouldn't necessarily look at it as like, this is the arc I'm trying to take people through. We look at every piece of content should essentially create that arc for somebody, because no matter what they find, they have to know who you are, what y'all do in a small, condensed way. That's why often people do consume silently, and they aren't necessarily engaging with every post, leaving public comments, joining your email list. They're like, hey, I found you through this one thing and I'm just going to continue consuming because I'm intrigued. But you've retained that attention rather than just spiking it with one post. And that's really the goal, is that arc that you took them on in one post gets them ready to consume more arcs, which then of course creates that bigger narrative that you create whether or not you're intending to, which is why it's important to be intentional about that. But you want to take your audience on a journey, no matter where they find you and what they consume of your material.
Okay, that's tea. I never thought about it that way. Okay, so then like my next logical question is, can you walk me through somebody who is an early stage founder, like they're like, oh shit, I got to start posting, like I got to start because I'm going to have a launch soon and I have no audience. What kind of content like should they be focusing on, or I guess maybe like what does the first 30 days look like? Like how should they be posting, like how should they be thinking about, like you said, creating that narrative within a post, and then like what is the cadence, like how does that realistically, or how do you advise your clients like to realistically fit all of that work into their to-do lists?
It's such a good question. And I think the challenge is the starting point. And that's what keeps a lot of people stuck is, oh, I haven't posted anything in a while. I don't know where to start. But I'll say we worked with a brand who hadn't posted. It was like a legacy brand. They started their business like 20 years ago. All their work was word of mouth. And their Instagram, when we started with them, hadn't been posted to in 6 years.
Wow.
6 years. And we got started with them, and I believe that their link taps increased to like over 1,000% in the first month. So what's cool when you start is that your numbers will look amazing right away because you're going from 0 to,
Something.
great. Yeah, something. Exactly. But it comes down to maintaining that after you have built that foundation.
Yeah.
The way that we approach building the foundation is honestly a lot of testing in your first month because there's no data to go off of. And the way I look at it is that data drives decisions and good decisions make dollars. So you can't make a lot of money unless you're using data-informed decisions around your next steps, around your content, around your offers, etc.
Yeah.
When you're starting with zero data, it's really just about testing. So in that very first month, I would say test a bunch of different formats, test a bunch of different messaging, target different audiences, like use all of your angles, because at the end of those 30 days, you should be running data reports and finding what's connecting with your audience. Once you know what's connecting, you throw everything else away and you just deep dive into that material. You reiterate, you redo it, you add new aspects, you try different formats, you split it into multiple pieces of content from one big idea. It's not that you're starting over after the first month and saying, okay, well, now we're in month 2. What do we do now? It's like that first month just gave you all the answers. Like that's where you pull your data so that you can continue to reiterate month over month and see better results.
Yeah. And I like what you said about the big idea, because this is kind of how I think about it, where like, like you have content pillars like already baked in. And if you're producing other types of content like blogs or whatever, like that is a gold mine of things that you then break down into smaller bits that then go on social media. So when people are like, oh, I don't know what to post, like I think that, to your point, there's like such a plethora of options. It's just about like really, I think, sitting down either like on a bi-weekly or weekly basis to just be like, okay, what do I have right now? And then like help me break that down further into socials. And like, thank God for AI, because I think that it's really helpful, at least from like the breaking down of content perspective, to be like, at least just give you some ideas. Like I personally don't want like my AI obviously to write my social posts, because I just think like it's seen, and I also think like it's important to make sure that your brand has its own unique voice. Otherwise, like what's the point?
Yeah.
But it is helpful from like a content ideation perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think AI is great for the R&D, like your research and development. Find analogies, find data to back up what you're saying, pull examples, ask AI how to break down this example that you have or a case study that you have, give it one big idea and ask it to break it down into multiple concepts. Like I totally agree. I think it's a great starting point, but I also don't love using it to write full posts because, and maybe like you write the post and have it refine. That's cool. But at the end of the day, you'll know so much more about your brand than AI will, unless you've really taken the time to train it. And with that knowledge comes those really important examples that you can give for your reference and to use in your content. And I think those are really valuable to keep present in your marketing.
Totally. And I'm curious from your perspective and like your growth journey, like when you were doing 95 Media and it was like just the beginning stages, what were some of the like challenges that you ran into or like lessons you learned that you now apply every time you work with a client?
Whoa, what a loaded question. So many lessons. So many lessons. I would say the biggest one for me, I'm a very like type A organized person. And yeah.
Yep.
And I have always approached my work in a very organized, systematic way. And one thing, I've been doing this for 10 years now, 11 years actually going on. And there's always things that you realize you could be doing better, things that you could systemize more, things that you realize, oh, that thing has changed fundamentally and we now need to like update our systems. So for us, we are always, and I mean always, like reiterating our processes and our systems. Just a few weeks ago, we rolled out new SOPs across the entire company for all of our employees and just saying like, hey, here's like standard work. Here's ways that we approach everything daily so that we can reduce the different experiences that our clients have and ensure that no matter who they're working with on the team, it's the exact same. Like, yes, your relationship with your account manager will obviously differ. They're different humans. But beyond that, like the way that we execute will be systemized no matter who's your touch point. And I think that's really valuable. So that's just one big lesson. I've always looked at it as if I am repeating anything, it needs to be a process. Like I don't want to I repeat myself every single day, a million times a day. And if there's one thing I can do to like take that and reduce it, I always will, because not only does that take work off my plate so I can focus on other things and move the company forward, but it also allows our team to have a resource that they can reference at, 7 a.m. if they want to start their day early and they don't need to come to me for that material. I think all of that is just so valuable to building a good team culture where ownership is involved and systems are there to support the output for the client.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing too with like being a business owner is that you know what your unique value is and you know what you're providing. And so I think sometimes it's about like how can you identify the bottlenecks and how can you identify the areas of opportunity from like a execution perspective so that the work becomes like the only thing that you have to think about, not necessarily like how the work is getting done. Like that should be relatively like ironed out. So I feel like sometimes like as a business owner, like that's almost your role is to make sure that like the work is being done efficiently, not just that the work is getting done.
Totally. I mean, as a business owner, it's your job to find the problems. So like find the problem and it's your job to fix the problem. Like that to me, you're constantly putting out fires. Like you think you hire a team to like, they're going to put out the fire. Nope, creates more fires. Like now you have 3 times the amount of fires because you have 3 times the amount of people. And that's its own challenge. I think as you grow as a business owner, like there's always new problems. But at the end of the day, your job changes from, or at least my job originally was like, okay, you're working with clients, you're executing the work, you're bringing that to life. And over the years, it's changed to like, okay, that's the team's job. And my job is to make sure the team is set up for success. So if we're having the same problems over and over, great. Now I need to solve that problem. The client is experiencing this one thing at this one part of the process. Great, we need to fix the process. So your job as a business owner just changes as your business changes. And I think that's a really big positive. It might feel scary, but like that means you're growing and that's what you're looking for.
Hilariously, I'm glad that you brought this up because over the weekend I was watching the show called Alone. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It is like it's a survivalist show, but like literally like 10 people are dropped in the middle of nowhere, totally alone. And like they don't have contact even with like a camera crew, like they do all the filming themselves. And one of the things that they were talking about, I kept thinking about this like in relation to entrepreneurialism because they were saying like the hardest part about the experience is the mental aspect of it. Like that was way harder than anything else. And then on top of it, they were like, it's so frustrating because there's no time where you just like kick back and cruise. Like there is always a problem to solve. And I was like, oh my God, it's just like being a business owner. And then the irony on top of that too is that they talk about how fulfilling the experience is. And I'm like, like I feel like it's the same.
It really hits too close to home.
seen that. I was like, damn, it's actually the same. The only difference is that like you're not fighting a grizzly bear.
True. Although sometimes it feels like it. So that's
It
really true.
It feels the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta go back to the social media stuff really quick. We kind of talked about this on the phone, and I feel like this is obvious just because like I'm a marketer, but I don't know if this is the case for everybody else. So like if somebody's trying to decide which platform they want to like go all in on, how do you advise that strategy? And like when do you feel a multi-platform approach is the right call?
Yeah. So, I mean, the platform that you decide to go all in on usually comes down to your target market.
Mhm.
If you are direct to consumer, it doesn't necessarily make sense to be on LinkedIn. But if you're B2B, it wouldn't really make sense to be on like Pinterest.
TikTok.
Yeah, like maybe TikTok, but definitely not Pinterest. So at the end of the day, like that's where I always start is who are you talking to? And we need to find that audience so that you're talking to them in the place that they already are. We're not trying to like build an island and tell people, oh, just it's fine. Like just swim on over to my island. Like I know your island's nice and warm and comfy, but like my island's better. That's not what social media does. We go to their island, we build a nice little hotel, and then we say, hey, come on in. It's great over here. So that's how I think about it. But then beyond that, most times the first platform to go all in on usually is Instagram. That's where all of our clients start, and it's usually the foundation. Why? Because it's just where most people are. There are 3 billion active users on Instagram today.
Wow.
So, like, if you don't think your audience is in the 3 billion, you're most likely wrong. And they usually are. Whether or not they are creating, they are consuming. That's a big myth that I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, I target like really high net worth individuals. I target, really luxury clientele. They don't post on Instagram. They aren't out there sharing their, okay, I believe you, but like, that doesn't mean they aren't there, that they aren't searching you up. We're seeing this huge shift right now. It's called social search, where consumer behavior wise, people are moving from Googling, someone they're looking to hire, or even like a restaurant they're considering going to, or it could be a word of mouth referral. They used to go to Google when they heard about you. Now they're just opening up Instagram and they're looking you up on the app. There's a study done by We Are Social that found 94% of people in the last month, ages 16 to 64, went on a social media platform, and only 81% used a traditional search engine. That's like a 15% difference. So that tells us right away, people are seriously moving away from search engines. And I'm not even going to bring up AI and talk about how much people are going to chat for like their trusted concierge recommendations, but that's another place people are going. So if you put all of your eggs in the search engine basket of Google, you're probably missing out on a lot of opportunities between social media first and foremost, and then AI, because not only is AI scraping your website, which you probably optimized for Google, but it's also scraping social media. So if there's any other reason to be on social, it really is all the above, and it's where your people are going to find you. So to circle back to your question, I would definitely look at Instagram first, but really consider where are your people and meet them where they're at.
I'm so glad that you brought up the search thing, because this is something that I've been doing a lot, and I, obviously representing like a subsect of human beings, but I think this is so true. Like anytime, especially if I'm traveling and I know I'm going to like a new country, I'm always like, oh, best coffee shops in blah, blah, blah on TikTok. And like, I don't necessarily consume TikTok, but I use TikTok specifically as a search engine.
Yeah.
Literally, because I can see the photos, like I can see what they ordered, I can see the menu, like as opposed to having to go to Google and be flooded with like a million pins of coffee shops and then have to go to each and every single one of them to see like reviews. It's just so much faster and more consumable. And I think Instagram recently also had done a lot of updates to their like search engine function, because it used to be so booty compared to TikTok. But I think they saw the power that you're expressing and was like, holy shit, like we need to invest in that update. And so I think that also like they're doing a lot of work to make that a big deal also, because I think to your point, like it's just where people are going to get like quote unquote trusted reviews and things like that.
100%. Yeah. It really is where people are going, and it's not just Gen Z, it's not just millennial, it is people of all ages. So it is really important to know and to take action on, because otherwise, imagine if you don't take action on that and you're just like, no, Google only, I'm just my website, that's it, print marketing, that's all I'm going to do. Right? Like, there are lots of businesses out there who are still of that mindset. You'd be shocked. And unfortunately, that is fine to do if that's your prerogative. But the reality is that your neighbor next door who does the exact same thing, that coffee shop down the road who has not as great beans as you, they aren't organic, they don't care about their customer experience, they're going to get more business because they're findable.
Yeah.
And that's all it comes down to. So if you are good with the person next door getting your business, then by all means stick with it. But I'm not, and our clients aren't. So that is truly the reason to be on social, to be findable, and to make sure that you're building a presence that is actually attracting the right people. Because no matter what you have up there, like our client who hadn't posted in 6 years was losing business because his content was outdated. The projects that were shown were outdated. It didn't show what they are capable of. And so people were finding them, even though they hadn't posted in 6 years, but they were losing that business because it didn't represent the quality and craftsmanship that they actually execute on. So that's just the truth.
So when do you think, like, do you think that it's the right call to be like, okay, once you have, you know, relatively established cadence and process with like Instagram, for example, and then you maybe want to like repurpose and do TikTok, like, do you recommend waiting a little bit and like getting used to the process of like posting and creating content and then jumping to add another platform? Or do you think like, nah, just do it like from day one, like think about like a two-pronged approach and like just knock it out at the same time? Like, it's almost easier to do it that way.
Personally, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I really don't. Usually it comes down to resources. So most of our clients, they were, before they worked with us, they were founders who were trying to do it all themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like their first outsource, their first hire, and they have just been drowning in work and trying to do sales and marketing and grow the back end and hire somebody to help them do something. And then, oh yeah, I've, care for my kids, and it's spring break, and now I have to figure like the summer camps and all this stuff. It's like there's too much. And so usually they just don't have the bandwidth to do it themselves. So if you're hiring someone or a team like 95 Media to like do that for you, then by all means, like, there's no reason to not do more than one. If someone is supporting you and able to capture content with you, and you're able to spread, I wouldn't even say spread thin, because you shouldn't be the one executing it if you're hiring support on that front. But if you are doing it yourself and you're only able to do one, I would do one really well before expanding into a second or a third. The only thing I would say to do multiple things with kind of is, if you're doing Instagram, I would really encourage you to try and explore building an email list as well. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, we want to build our social presence and build an audience, but you don't own that audience. It's all on borrowed land. And so if you can get people onto an email list, you do own your email list, you do own that data, and you can contact those people at your own free will, and there's no algorithm in between you. We find a lot of success moving an Instagram audience into an email list with the right incentives and the right strategies. So I would say those two things are really compatible if you're, short on resources. But if you have the amount of content that you need, the team to turn that content into actual posts, a community manager, someone who can stay up to date on trends, then by all means, like, expand onto an additional platform that makes sense for your unique audience.
Do you find that Instagram is like a great pipeline for email?
Yes. Again, like, when done right. So it's difficult to build an email list if you don't have a reason people should join. And that's a challenge that I see a lot of people face, is no one wants to join my email list. No one's signing up when I share my email list. It's like, okay, well, what are they getting? They're giving you their email, but what are they getting in return? Like, we all get enough spam. We don't need more spam. So if you can provide a free resource, a download, a private podcast, a discount if you're product based, like, give them something, give them a reason to give you their email. And if you do that, it's it should be a pretty seamless transition. If you've provided value on Instagram, you provide value getting their email, and now that you get this, you give them this resource, and then if you're thinking about it correctly, in my opinion, you then put them through a automated email sequence on the back end, which then pushes them to upsell into another low ticket offer where you can support them in another way.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. And then the other one I wanted to ask about too, because I feel like it's kind of underrated, is Pinterest. Like, what are your thoughts around that? And like, when is the right time to be using that? Because I feel like it really is sort of an untapped landscape a little bit.
I love Pinterest. And one thing I will say with Pinterest is that it is a very long game. So it is not not a platform to look at when you're like, yes, I want to see a quick return. Like your goals going on TikTok are probably like a quick return. Your goals going on Pinterest are, I'm playing the long game. It's SEO, it's website traffic, it's awareness and searchability. Because Pinterest, the content has a much longer shelf life, which is a huge benefit. However, because people don't go to Pinterest looking for a brand, like for example, you probably wouldn't search like marketing agency near me on Pinterest.
Yeah,
like
totally.
you wouldn't do that, but you would do that on Instagram. You would do that on TikTok. And it just is a difference of intent. High intent platform for Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn for certain industries. But on Pinterest, we're looking for inspiration. Yeah. And so that's the intent over there. It's just a different challenge. However, I will say there's a unfinalized deal that's like rumoring right now that OpenAI, ChatGPT's like mother company, is trying to buy Pinterest.
Fascinating.
So what that tells me is there's something that chat wants from Pinterest. And it also tells me that Pinterest content is going to start showing up in chat answers. So if there were a time to get on Pinterest, I would say now is a great time, because even if the deal doesn't go through with ChatGPT, maybe Anthropic buys it, or maybe like Claude buys it. There's clearly something that they want in the back end build out of Pinterest. And as a business owner, when I hear that, I see an opportunity.
That is so fascinating. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had not heard that before. And I'm wondering if almost like it has to do with also this like move from ChatGPT to have ads. Like I wonder if that is also part of this motivation, but it's very interesting. I've like of all the things.
Right. But I also look at Pinterest as like a low-hanging fruit, because it is one of the oldest social, it's just always been a search engine. People look at it as social media, but it always has been a search engine, which I find interesting because now social media has turned into a search engine, but that's a different conversation.
Full circle.
It's such an old platform. It has so much data. So if I were to guess, chat is probably going for that data of the users and the trends that are happening on the back end.
Yeah. Okay, crazy. Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up. Speaking of all this content, one thing I want to talk to you about is founder content. This is like a big topic of discussion right now. It is like, consumers want to know what they're buying and who they're buying from and why they're buying. Like they want conscious, they want a face to the name. So founder content is obviously having a big moment right now. But I think a lot of people are turned off by this. Like I hear this all the time where founders are like, I feel so uncomfortable posting, because I think like at the root cause of it, like they didn't get into it to be an influencer, right? Like they recognize that social media is a price to pay for their business to grow. And so I would love for you to break down sort of like what you're seeing around founder content, why it's valuable, and then also like how do you advise people through that discomfort?
Here's the thing, founder content has always been popular. Like this isn't a renaissance that's happening. Like this has always been true. I think people may just be like noticing it a little bit more. I mean, we just saw like the McDonald's Burger Bite situation. Like he's not a founder, but he's a CEO. When you can add a face to the brand, whether or not that's good PR, it gets attention, right? Because we're like, oh, well, like we've never been able to put a face to McDonald's. Who's McDonald's? Yeah. It's just the product. But
it's Ronald McDonald's.
Right, like Mr. Ronald. But when you can add a face, like people buy from people. Yeah. That's why founder content works. you can try everything under the sun to like you can create content featuring everything but yourself as a founder, and I promise you, I don't guarantee a lot, but I will guarantee that that post featuring you will outperform everything else you've ever done. And you could have poured thousands of dollars into that other material versus you just sitting down in front of your iPhone recording a video, and that will do better than everything else. And it's because people want to see you, especially if you are a founder-led brand and you are part of the client experience. You are what they're buying. Like, you're the product. So, like, for example, we work with a lot of interior designers, and the interior, like typically the founder of the firm is a part of client meetings, or at least some of them. They're a part of the delivery. They're the name that's on the product. They're the name that that person will tell their neighbor, oh, I hired so-and-so agency. And typically it's the founder's name in the company name. Like, if your name's in the company name and you're refusing to get in your content, what are we doing? Like, you are the company. You have to be in the material. So all that to say, I know that founders don't want to hear that. Like, I get it. We work with a lot of founder-led brands, and it is the number one challenge that we have with our clients. But it's also why we created our quarterly content shoots with our clients, where we fly out to them every single quarter and we shoot 3 months of content in 3 hours with the founder typically, because they aren't going to do it on their own. They don't know what to say. They don't know where to start. Sweet babies like film their team meetings like in a poorly lit conference room from like this whack angle, and they're like, hey guys, look at this amazing video. Here you go, we did it, we filmed something for you. And we're like, thank you so much, and we can't use this. Like, this isn't going to be this is not going to connect with your audience. So it's really valuable to have us as their team go to them, map out a shot list, know exactly what their audience wants to see, like literally coach them through every single video and film it with them, and then handle all the post-production editing from there. So I would just say, if you're a founder who is resistant to doing so, is struggling with where to start, the difference between struggling and success really could just be having a team that supports you. It's not as difficult as you may think, but it really is. It likely is going to be that thing that goes from just posting every day to actually profiting from those posts.
Yeah. And I think it might be obvious, but worth stating in that, like, some of my favorite brands I discovered because of the founder. And the most important thing that the founder talks about that, like, the brand doesn't always focus on is why. Like, why these product decisions were made, why they founded and why they started, like what their mission is and the problem that they're trying to solve. And that to me is such a better indicator of whether or not I'm going to buy something, because like, I think when they come at it from that perspective, it's like, I hear myself in the problem. And then to also feel a part of understanding why things were made the way that they were, like, gives it such a greater credibility. Like, I'm thinking, like, literally last night I was researching like face tape, you know, like non Botox options. And I found one brand, it's called like Sleep Ugly. And the founder is like on there all the time talking about like what's in their product, like why it was made that way, what the purpose was. And I was like so much more convinced than anything else that I would have seen otherwise. And so like, while it might seem like this is why founder content makes sense, I think it bears repeating, because I want early stage founders to hear that like there is a purpose for it. And I think there's also a difference between you coming on and talking about why you built the brand rather than like telling us what's in your bag, because like nobody really cares about like what's in your bag. And like, if you wanted, you didn't start this company to become an influencer, and I totally am fine with that. And you don't have to feel like you need to be an influencer to be creating founder-led content.
I would actually argue that lifestyle content, like you said with the bag, like that's not at all what you should be focusing on. Like, what your job is as a founder is not lifestyle, it's leadership. Like, that leadership of the company and the whys behind the decisions are so important for your audience to know. More than that too, you of all people in your company should know your audience like the back of your hand. You should know what makes them tick. You should know what matters to them. You should know what makes them buy. And those aspects should really come out in your material more than anything else. It's so much less about like, here's why I built the company, and it's here's why I built the company for you. Like that's what you're able to articulate in a way that no one else on your team will be able to.
Yeah. And like, I think founders who've lived the problem are obviously at an advantage with that because they're like, oh, I'm just like you, like I had the same problems that you did. And that's why I built this company. And that's always really helpful. But to your point, like the reason that you're a founder is because you know the problem space better and you know who you're solving that problem for, like the back of your hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having a product that's a solution to a problem that you had is very common, to your point. Like that's why a lot of people start businesses. But whether or not that was a problem you had, you understand that problem so well because you're talking to clients every single day about it, probably. I mean, and if not today, at one point you were. So like bring it back to that. And one of my favorite ways to create content is with the mindset of what's in it for them. Like that's how I always look at content is, okay, you're telling me that you started this brand because you didn't want to get Botox. And so you were trying to find an alternative solution. Great. Well, what's in it for the customer? Like, I don't care. Like, that's great. But like, what's in it? Why should they buy that instead of going to get Botox? Like, tell me what's in it for them. Okay. Like there's all these properties that are healing and they don't interrupt. I don't know how. Nervous system. Yeah. Okay, great. Like, well, what does it mean to not interrupt your nervous system? Can you think more clearly? Can you be more present with your kids? Can you exercise better? Like that's the levels that we go and where it starts to get really powerful for the consumer. It's not that you didn't want to get Botox. It's that mom can be more present with her kids after school rather than just putting them in front of the TV.
Honestly, I'm so glad that you said that because I think about this all the time as a marketer. Like, and this is my other like gripe with AI created content is because it never takes that next leap. And it always to me has to be like, to your point, you just keep asking yourself why. Like, why does this matter? Who cares? So what? And it always is that next logical leap that you have to take to say like, oh, this is why this matters. And then like, that's the point that you should always be driving home.
Yeah. And there's so many, like, it doesn't just stop with like putting your kids in front of the TV and like actually being able to take them outside and walk. Like there are a million examples. It's just pushing yourself to get there. And it's not easy. Like that takes time. That takes thinking. And it can be hard when you're trying to do it for yourself. I know like firsthand, it's so much harder for me to like find those examples for 95 Media. But when I'm with a client on a content shoot, I could whip those up like 2 seconds flat, 50 of them in 3 hours. I'm like, let's go. It's my favorite part because I'm like, I don't care that like communication is a core like value at the company. What does that mean to the client? Like they're not hiring you because you're going to email them back. That's standard. Like, come on, let's keep going here.
I was literally just thinking about this. Like, I think mission and values get conflated a lot. And like nobody cares about your values. I'm sorry. Like that is internal to me. Like that is how you operate as a business while you're doing your mission. To me, like the mission is really what needs to stand out because typically the mission labels what the problem you're solving and then for whom you're solving it. And like that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. And so I'm glad that we talked about this because I think the like big takeaway, like if you take nothing else away from this episode, let it be that like your mission needs to be out there and like very clearly understood.
Very clear. Just think about what's in it for them. If you just keep that one question in every single piece of content, like you're going to be golden. You're going to be so much better than everyone else.
Yeah. Like leaps and bounds ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question before we wrap, but when do you suggest people start thinking about like paid options? Because I know like this is always a question of like, when do you start putting money behind stuff? And especially for early stage founders where like the budget might be tight, it feels impossible to compete in the organic landscape. So I'm curious what you advise your clients on.
Well, the thing about paid is that it's going to amplify what you're already doing. Some people look at paid and they're like, oh, it's going to solve all my problems. Like, this is it, guys. I found the hack. And it's not because, no, if your organic content is trash, you're putting money on fire. Like, you're putting money on trash. That is it. Like, that's all you're doing. So literally, I mean, the thing about paid is I never recommend paid unless your organic is already doing well. So if you have been consistent with your organic, it's driving results, you're building, towards your goals, whatever those might be, and you're really clear on who you want to target. That's essential, because paid, the beauty of it is that you're able to get in front of a more niche group of people. So if you are brick and mortar, or if you're a service like a plumber and you can only travel so far to deliver your service, paid is really great because you are only talking to people in these specific zip codes or with like this one problem or like one interest. And you can really niche down so beautifully. But at the same time, if someone sees your paid ad, they click over to your profile, which they're likely to do, and they find content from 6 years ago that is like the sunset and your dinner of some shrimp, like, they're not going to hire you. They're just going to be like, who is this guy? Why is he running paid ads? Like, this is a scam. So really, like, paid is great, but it's only going to amplify what you're already doing. So the way we like to look at it is we take organic content that's already performing well, we put money behind it, get it in front of a more niche group of people, and then from there, it's more data. And it's just talking to a smaller pool of more interested people. And then you get to study their actions and make better decisions based on that data.
That is amazing. And honestly, I've never heard it explained that way. So I'm going to take that home with me because I thought that was a really good tip.
Good.
Okay, just to wrap up, if an early stage founder is listening to this conversation and they are like, okay, this is so stunning, I have all these thoughts, like, what are some immediate next steps you recommend that they do right after this?
I mean, I would really recommend, first and foremost, going and like self-auditing what you're already doing. Take the knowledge that we've talked about today and be like, okay, what am I checking the box on? What am I missing the mark on? And just sort of like evaluate your current stance. From there, look at your data, like really evaluate what the data is also telling you to see what is doing well, what's underperforming. And then I would say, if you're looking for an outside perspective, an expert opinion on that, and really trying to get a game plan of what to implement from here, knowing where you are today and like being honest about it, then I would really recommend our marketing growth blueprint. It's a brand new offer we recently launched where we literally dissect where our client is, what's going on in their profile, what's the data telling us, and then we put together a blueprint for where they can go from here. So it's exact action steps. It sort of evaluates where you've been, what you're doing, and where you need to go from here so that you can DIY it with a really informed, expert-led strategy. So you're not just continuing to throw spaghetti at the wall and hoping for the best. You know that the actions you're taking are really aligned with your goals and where you're wanting to go with an expert in your back pocket. So that's our marketing growth blueprint. I'm really excited about it. We recently launched it, and it's a really affordable offer meant for early stage founders who are just looking for help to get started. Sometimes it's just that like initial push to get off the starting line and really into the race. And this offer can do just that.
Yeah, and that's great too, because then you're not just like flying by the seat of your pants. You like actually have a legitimate plan that will actually like move the needle, as opposed to just like spraying and praying, as they say.
Yes. I mean, that is so hard when you're just like a one-woman show and hoping for the best. It takes so much longer to get the results that you're wanting because you're constantly trying new things. So if you can just eliminate that testing period and know, okay, this is the strategy that we should be implementing, it can just take so much pressure off the process.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Emma, for sharing all of that wisdom and expertise. I had so much fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. And I hope your audience found all of the best value today.
I mean, I learned a lot. So like, I would be surprised if somebody listened and was like, nah.
Perfect.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all the links to connect with Emma in the show notes, including the link to her marketing growth blueprint. And if you feel called to support the podcast, please leave a review. That's always the most impactful. And if you're looking for more, I would be deeply honored if you just wanted to buy me a matcha. The link is below. And if you enjoyed this episode and are looking for more before the next one hits, dive into the Well on Substack. There you'll find more founder wisdom and essays on entrepreneurship. See you guys next week.